Hey guys, man, it's cold. I'm a warm weather guy. I don't like cold weather. I can tolerate it, but I'm ready for the warm weather. Hopefully, we'll have a decent spring this time. Maybe this cold air will keep us from going from winter to summer this year. That'd be nice. Hey, I just want to try to be a little briefer than I was last night. I kind of got long-winded, but trying to catch up. But I was just talking to a good friend of mine. This is kind of therapy for me too, so I kind of ramble on sometimes. But we were in Killeen and growing up with Roger, and watching his family grow and being married and having children. Marie and Ivy Root now, and then while we're there in Killeen selling insurance for my daddy, they had another child, Dylan Wayne Javon. Both of them are dear to me. I love them to death. I don't get to see them enough. We were Roger selling insurance. I kind of went on and tried out the semi-pro football team in Austin, made it, played there 3 years, got a couple of tryouts in NFL out of it. I had some really good surgery during there and kind of fixed my real bad knee and where I could play and got some looks and that kind of thing, but that's for another time. Roger, was hard at selling insurance. He even made some conventions. You had to sell so much and qualify, and they sent you on a convention every year. I got to go 1 year, long time ago, wasn't even selling insurance. My parents never took me. And so they took me with them. We went to Mexico City, which was all right, big town. First place I ever been where when you came in over the mountain range, you couldn't see the other end of the town from the air. I mean, that's how big it is. But anyway, I'm making good money and Roger's making good money selling for my dad, more money we ever made in our lives. I didn't have any bills. I still lived at the house and like I say, Roger was doing real well living and they moved to Florence. I can't remember if they moved to Florence before or after they went to Colorado. I do know that I think they did. But anyway, whether they did or not, they lived in Florence and had a great house right at the end of the main street, right there in Main Street, Florence. They had a lot of music festivals there. Roger and them became very, very active in the community. I think Roger kind of grew weary of working for my dad. We were under a whole nother set of rules than everybody else was. We had to play by the rules because we were the boss's son, and I think Roger kind of took that to heart, and they had it out a few times about that, because not that we wanted to break the rules. It's just the other guys didn't have to break the rules, and so they were selling more insurance, or they could break the rules, and so they were selling more insurance than us, and they were kind of hammering us a little bit. Why aren't y'all doing better? And I said, well, if I got to do what y'all did, we'd be outdoing y'all 10-1. I mean, we're almost catching up with them now. We were having to, and there was a lot of stuff you could do that you couldn't do, let's put it that way, that if you got caught, it'd be big time trouble. My dad would go get them out of it and that kind of stuff. So they kind of got an argument. Roger decided, I'm going to go work somewhere else. So he goes up to Colorado Springs and sells insurance. And I think he kind of lost interest in it when he got up there. It wasn't the same as Fort Hood. My dad and them had a wonderful business. He's a general agent, had 30 agents underneath him. I think we moved all 30 agents at least once, some of them twice. So we'd be coming home on a weekend. My dad go, don't plan anything. We're moving Walt White this weekend and his family. And so we, us three boys would go, it'd be a U-Haul and we'd go move them. We did that a ton. I mean, it was, we was service. That was what my dad was all about. When they went to Colorado Springs, I think he kind of lost interest in the insurance business. I was playing semi-pro ball and basically be a hunting guide, like a PR guy for my dad in the insurance business, which was kind of fun. I mean, I had a blast. I mean, from September all the way through February in quail season, went dove, deer, quail season. And that's what I did for like 6 years or maybe longer. Kind of a PR guy for helping insurance agents and their families and enlisted men all the way to officers in the Army and their children. And it was kind of rewarding. Got to put kids on a deer stand for the first time in their life and let them experience all that. So it was kind of fun. But there was a need for that. So It wasn't like I was sloughing off or anything, but somebody had to do it. A lot of entertainment in the insurance business, and it can get you in a lot of trouble if you let it. So we all kind of got caught up into the party scene by doing that, and after a while, it kind of wore on us all, and it was kind of a drag after a while, to be honest with you. But it didn't squelch anybody's character that bad, and we always had good attitudes because my mom and dad were so full of love. But then, like I say, my brother and I grew apart. I didn't know him then very well. And then my dad goes and gets this guy to sell him some stuff. And he said, we're going to get in the wood chipping business. I said, okay, because I was tired of the insurance business anyway. So my little brother and I started it. We were selling firewood during the winter. And it was back in the 80s. Wood chipping business was huge, where you would chip wood, mesquite wood, hickory wood, oak, you name it, but big time mesquite. And we were in mesquite country, so we would buy mesquite wood, chip it up, bag it up, and do private label. And then we'd also sell our own stuff in the local grocery stores. So that was kind of fun, kind of an enterprise thing. I got to exercise my welding skills. We built a whole assembly line that would separate it, and if it was green, it would dry it. I mean, we had the whole 9 yards. It was really cool. Mr. Mesquite's what it was called. And I'd like to say, we brought Roger back to help us from Colorado. They moved back to Florence, and we all had just enjoyed that for a while. It lasted 2 or 3 years, and kind of was waning away. And then all of a sudden, that kind of, it was almost like a fad. People started not buying as much, and it was the latest thing. And so we kind of faded out of that and just selling firewood, and then that kind of faded away. And then I met my wife to be, and moved to Austin and was living with her. And we eventually got married, and we were all living in Austin. And my dad, we get a phone call. My dad had been killed in a car wreck, and so it was devastating to the family, to say the least. And so, because he was it. I mean, that from then on, the insurance business went downhill. I mean, it was like it was all surrounded and circled around him. And when the nucleus is gone, you're kind of, I don't know. None of us had a real vision for our lives, and so we didn't know what to do. We really didn't. We were all kind of lost. Luckily, I had been walking with the Lord, and kind of moving back into that direction. As they say in the Baptist world, you backslid. And was living my own life again and that kind of thing. But this kind of shocked you into, what are you going to do? So the Lord called me back, and I started serving Him again. And like I said, I got married, and then Roger and Carolyn kind of drifted apart. Don't want to go into all that kind of stuff, but it's just amazing how that happened. We wound up living in Austin for a long time. Roger lived in the area in Austin. He had got an apartment down there close by us, and we were still close, and those things kind of went by the wayside of all the financial good times with my dad and my mom, and it kind of went in a whole different direction then. So, but we still, like I said, we were still family close. My younger brother got married, working for a construction company, Bobby, and was doing real well in that. And I think they're making him superintendent of a couple of sites and things like that. So things were going on, and I was still trying to play, recover and play semi-pro football or play professional football. Did get some tryouts with this stuff, but I'll end it with this. It's just the way brothers are, and it doesn't matter if you're little or bigger, older. I was in the best shape of my life and got the dream. I had a scout see me and picked up on it and set me up in 1982 with the tryout for the Dallas Cowboys. And man, I was elated. I worked hard. I mean, hard. And then one day, Roger's out on the backyard in the patio, and I came by and said something to him, and it made him mad. And next thing you know, we're in a fight. I mean, fight, knock down, drag out, brawl. And like I said, Roger had a brick for a head, or more like a haydite block. I mean, you know, you just couldn't hurt him, and you sure couldn't knock him out because I tried really, really hard. I jumped on him and hit him a couple times. The second time I hit him, I broke my left thumb. We fought for 2.5 hours, and I was one hand in it. And I pinned him down to try to end it, you know, because that's just my style. Kind of overwhelm him, say, look, I don't want to fight. You can see what I can do. Let's end this. And my dad came walking around the corner. He goes, all right, let him up. And I thought, okay. So I let him up. Wham! He hits me in the nose. My dad goes, kick his ass. So the fight started back again. And like I said, I had a broke thumb, but I did everything I could to knock him out and, you know, that kind of thing. And so I finally got away from him. And it was just crazy. That's how my brother was. He did everything all out, all full out. Didn't matter if it was love or fight or party or play the harmonica. It was just all out. Didn't matter who it was either. He'd fight me, my brother, or anybody. And so, you know, that I was running around the house ahead of him because my hand hurt. I slipped into the house and got a bag of ice. He's still looking around for me outside. And I went out there and I'm trying to talk him out of not fighting. He comes up the steps and he's getting a little closer. And I had that bag of ice in my hand, so I kind of dropped it. And the bag of ice is probably about that big around where you know, wad it up like that. And I kind of dropped it like that because I know him. And I kind of leaned over and said, just stop this. Let's just stop this right now, Roger. And he hit me. And when he did, it's just reflex. I just came around with that bag of ice and just cold cocked him. Well, it's like weebles wobble and don't fall down. He just popped right back up and laughed at me. And I said that my mom got in hysterical. And so she gets out of the way. She gets me back in the house and he's still trying to come in. My dad's in between and all that. Well, I slipped out the front door and I'm just walking towards the highway. You know, I'm going to get away from this. This is done because I really couldn't even use my left hand. And highway patrolman comes by and I flagged him down. And I said, hey, you know, he knew my dad. And so I said, hey, look, I got a deal going on right now. My brother's kind of gone off the deep end here. And he'd grabbed a machete and was swinging the machete. And I said, I'm out of here. I ain't going that route. And so I told him about it. And so the highway patrolman pulls up and I said, he needs to be arrested. And so the highway patrolman gets said, good, finally we get this ended over. And the highway patrolman pulls up there and Roger walks around with that machete and he goes, hey, Roger, what are you going to do with that machete? Like that, like he knew him. And they laughed about it. He laid the machete down and nothing really came of it. And he said, stop this. And he did. My brother went home. Of course, he didn't talk to me for a month and he couldn't see out of either eye for a few days and stuff like that. But I had broke my hand. Well, with my other hand, I split the knuckle. I'm 2 weeks away from a Dallas Cowboy tryout. Dream job, dream tryout of my life. Whether I would have made it or not, who knows? But it would sure have been nice to be out there and having the boys look at you. So I had torn this ligament right here in this hand. It split it. And it's hard to pick that finger up. So I go back to my orthopedic surgeon and he says, okay, this is broke. We're going to put this in a cast, 6 weeks. And then when you get out of that, we're going to have to operate on your hand. And I got to think about it. I said, 6 weeks? Nah, that's not happening. I've been in cast most of my life. I said, we're going to do this one for 3 weeks. And then we're going to put the surgery on this one and have it for 3 weeks. So I cut the cast time down by 3 weeks. See what I'm saying? So anyway, I had 2 casts on my hands for a long time. And that was kind of fun in itself. But that's just kind of how we rolled. That's growing up with Roger. And it was just some things on, you know, eventually you forgive each other and you move on. But you know, that's just the life of growing up with Roger. I think, you know, after that, it was more of growing old with Roger. That's what we started doing. We started growing old together and that kind of settled things down. We never fought after that, that's for sure. I don't know. You know, it's kind of like, I remember we had a poker game one night out there in DeKalb when we lived out there. Larry Gatlin was sitting on one side, Goob Goblin was sitting on one side, Roger sitting here, Lloyd, me, and somebody else, maybe and David Tidwell. And the floor, the poker table sat a little bit up of the carport, and you could look down into the carport was lit up, and there was no car parked there. And so we were Roger and no, not Roger, Larry and Goob got in an argument over who won the pot. I mean, it was like, well, let's just get it on. So they walked outside and they squared off, and they both hit each other at the same time and popped their heads back and looked at each other like, what are we doing this for? Shook hands, walked back to the house laughing. And Lloyd Pope, when they did that, Lloyd looked back with his cowboy wisdom and said, look at there. One of them's scared and the other one's glad of it. So I think that's kind of how Roger and I were. You know, one of us scared and the other one's glad of it, because you're not going to win the fight. You're just going to go on and on and on and on and on. So that was just the way we lived our life, and it was kind of neat. It wasn't always fun, but most of the time it really was. And so, like I said, that was the end of growing up with Roger, and now I think we'll move on and start talking about growing old with Roger and what happened. I love doing this. It's like I told a friend of mine a while ago, called me on the phone and said, you know, I try to keep them low and not as many minutes, but I get to rapping on, because it's kind of therapy for me too. It really is. But I appreciate you guys, and don't really have anything special to play tonight. So, you know, when you grab one of these, you start from the one end of the key to the other. That's how you play. So, in memory of my brother, we'll just end it with a little note bender. Peace be with you guys.